Hi Wingspan artists, my name is Miss Samantha and today we are going to be learning about magical trees. So I teach Wingspan visual arts classes in Manhattan and Brooklyn this semester, and today I am excited to bring to you this project because I love trees. So we will be doing 2 tree paintings as well as reading this book at the end called The Magical Tree, which is inspired by the artwork of Gustav Klimt. And I know if you see his tree paintings after this, which are sparkly and golden, you will fall in love with them and never forget. So why magical trees? This is not just a lesson that I made up out of my head. Magical trees have been around for a very long time. People all around the world for thousands and thousands of years have thought that trees were magical. So let me give you an example. Trees. Do you think they look like a person ever? Sorry, I don't have a tree with me and I'm not gonna stand up. But if you look at a tree, they look like a person. I think you guys should stand up and try to make a tree. Whoops. They really do look like people. So in some cultures, like in Israel or in Native American cultures, think of the movie Pocahontas, people thought that trees were people, maybe their great-great-grandparents, loved ones, wise people. They might go talk to the tree, ask it for advice, think it's very wise. And trees are very old, and so it's always been a symbol of wisdom and elders. So some people think that the trees are their ancestors. In other cultures, they think that the trees grant wishes. If you know about India and Japan, they take the trees and use them to grant their wishes, where they can write their wish and then put it on the branch of the tree, or just make the wish on the tree, and this tree is supposed to be magical. And some people think that the tree, it's connected to the underground, it's also connected to the sky, and that's kind of like a magical distance, I would say, because it connects us to the sky. So maybe people think that's why it has magic powers. I don't know. But in other cultures, they just call it the tree of life because trees really do bring us life. They bring us some fruits that we need, nutrients, shelter, paper. Try to think of all the ways trees help us. So in some cultures, like in Zimbabwe or Madagascar, like their trees, they have one tree called the baobab tree. Do not quote me on that, but it's B-A-O-B, look it up. And those trees are amazing, and people can like live in there, and they're just incredible. They hold water, they save lives. So people really respect their trees. And that's why we are going to be making our own magical trees. My tree is the tree of memories, but you can think of any type of tree you want. It can be a wishing tree, it can be like a tree of money, of candy, of love, whatever floats your boat. So let me read you the materials. You need painting supplies. I use watercolor, but whatever you have. You will need some tape. As you can see here, this is a special technique called a resist technique. And if you want to try to figure out how I did it, take a few seconds. What I did was I took the tape, put it on, painted around it, and then remove the tape. So regular tape will not work as well, but if you have masking tape, washi tape, or painter's tape, that would probably be better. But feel free to use what you have. And thicker paper. I know not all of you have watercolor paper. This is watercolor paper. This is cardstock. Construction paper is good. The thicker the better. But as I said, whatever you have, there should never be an excuse not to make art. And let's see, if you have a blow dryer, why not whip that out? That could be fun to use if you have permission. Scissors could be helpful, but that is really it. Unlike the other projects with so many materials, like the Noisemaker project. So feel free to pause this and have a look. I decorated it because I have more time than I usually do these days. Voila. Okay, so the first tree we are going to do is my tree of memories. And my idea was that if you eat a fruit from the tree, you can remember something that you forgot, like, oh, whether it's an answer on a test or maybe it's just the best memory that you had, your favorite moment where you're maybe eating chocolate with your grandmother and you just eat the apple and remember. So I made that up. You guys can make up whatever tree you want, and we're going to be drawing it. I've heard some very interesting things, so take a moment to ponder, maybe close your eyes, decide what tree you want to do. And once you have that, maybe say it out loud, sketch out some ideas. And before we begin, we need to go over the parts of a tree, because do you think this is a good picture of a tree? No, I know you guys are children, but I expect better from you no matter how old you are. So we have to go over the parts of a tree because I want everyone to include at least these 6 parts. So think, what's a part of a tree? Normally I would call on you, but I'm just going to trust that you will answer. So what is one part? Let's start from the bottom. Roots. We never forget our roots. Those are like our legs if we were the tree. So they're just the things in the bottom that connect it to the earth and hold it in place. What else? What is this called? A trunk. Yes, a tree trunk. Ignore the background noise. We're in New York City, the city that never sleeps. A tree trunk. What else? Sometimes when people draw the tree, they just do a circle for the top, but they're leaving out something important. Branches. And I will just share with you the others. Leaves are optional. Bark, you should do. Bark is just like the lines or the texture of a tree. Sometimes the tree trunk has a special pattern if you look closely. And fruit or flowers. I also think it's fun to draw perhaps an animal. I made a little blue rabbit, but whatever you want. But I think you guys should try to include those. So use this as a checklist to verify at the end, and we will begin. So this is the tree I did, and I think we should begin with the roots. So let me get this paper, and I will show you what we're doing. And I painted this. If you want, you can draw it first, or you can just get right on to painting. Either way is fine. Here's my watercolors. And remember, you dip the brush in the water first. And I would probably start with brown. And so what you're gonna wanna do is start with the roots. And usually they're very wide. So you might wanna just make some lines on the bottom. You can make outlines or color them in. So there we have roots, done. Then we have to do the trunk. So remember, it starts out wide and then it gets smaller. It's called tapering. So it should kind of go whoop. It can be really, really wide or really, really thin. That's up to you. I'll make this a little wider. And since this is not watercolor paper, it might not absorb so well. So just keep remembering to add the paint, add the water until it's as dark as you want it to be. And voila. And what is next? Branches. So those are kind of like your arms, or it's another analogy. Arms, let me know if you think of one. But I would say just do lines, just like we did with the roots, wherever you want, usually going up or to the side. And again, you might want to do multiple layers and strokes because sometimes it's not as dark as you want it to be. And once you have some lines, you can make other lines going out of those, other lines going out of those. So just do your best. You can do how many or as little as you want. And then after that, I would say let's do leaves. And for leaves, I'm just gonna do the general shape of the tree, as you can see, which is just a round. And let's make that a little more green. And then I can go over the branches when they're dry and green, or I can kind of go around them. It's okay if it's a little dripping. Sometimes watercolor does that and it looks really cool. So just remember not to use too much water, but just the right amount. And you can go in and draw some more specific leaves. So maybe if you take a darker shade of green, see this, you can just go in and make some U shapes. Whoops, I'm holding it up so it's turning, but it's good to just go in and make some other individual leaves like that so that they look like leaves. Or I think maybe we should wait for this to dry, but before I'm going to try to draw some apples. And apples or berries are just like circles of whatever size you want. You can even make up your own fruit and put that in there. I think in the book we're gonna read, the fruit does something. Sometimes fruit has magic powers and stories and people's beliefs. So I'm just gonna do circles. There we have it. If you want to, it could be cute to do a little animal. I always love doing it. Maybe you can even do, you know how some trees have like holes in them? Do a hole, you can even put like an owl in there or something. What animal should we do? Maybe I will do a little raccoon. And I don't really remember what raccoons look like, but I know they're black and white. So I'm just gonna do my best. I think they look like cats, right? So your art doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as you try and it has your spirit, I think it will be great. So let's see. People say raccoons have like eyes that are black, right? I don't know. Pretend it's like that. And do they have stripes? I think they have stripes. So you can do that. You can make up your own magical furry animal. And you'll notice that when the paint dries, you can go over it again and it's gonna be darker. The paint usually dries lighter than it is. So you wanna do layers and layers and layers, which means you just go over it and over it and over it until you get what you want. But I'm pretty happy with that. And if you do fruit or berries or flowers, you might want to draw some on the ground too. And you know in my last painting tutorial, I said that you shouldn't leave white space. Well, if you use colored paper, that's okay. But I think it's good to just do as much of the background, which means as much other parts of the paper as you can. So what else can I do? I'm going to do some grass. Whew, that grass color is a little murky. So maybe I did not clean my brush as well. There we go. You can do flowers. You can maybe, depending on the time of day, do like a moon. Oops. There we go. It's a little hard to paint holding it, but I think that's pretty good. And you guys are young, and if your tree has all of these parts that we went over, the roots, the trunk, the branches, the leaves, the bark, oof, I forgot the bark, the fruit or the flowers, it is going to look so advanced and very, very grown up. Because most kids, I'm telling you, do this. So let's see, to do bark, I usually wait for it to dry or just go in with a darker brown and just kind of make lines in the tree. Bark is funny because it can either go up and down, it can go side to side, or it can look like a fish scale. So there's many different types of bark. But I think as long as you indicate that it has some texture, that's cool. But it's up to you. You're the artist. So let's say you want to make it abstract, which means like a little wild. You can leave one of these parts off. You don't have to listen to anything I'm saying, but this is how you do more of a realistic tree for your age. All right, so we are done. This tree is, I don't know what, but these fruits have powers, so maybe you can help me think of them. And let me know when I see you. And tree number 2 is this one. Oops, sorry. Not that one, that's the one I just did. This one, and it was my first time doing it today, so I'm so excited. I always wanted to. And there's a lot of cool projects you can do once you understand how to do this. So what you can imagine is we take tape and put it in the shape of the tree. I started it over here, so let me show you the process. This is washi tape. I'm a little obsessed. If you look closely, it has writing. I don't know where I got this. I think on Etsy, but in scripts, you can get washi tape with cats on it. I know my students probably know I'm obsessed with lots of weird types of tape and hole punchers, but I love art supplies and you can do a lot with them. So this tape is cool because you can put it on your wall or something, and when you take it off, it's not gonna ruin the wall. So your parents won't be mad at you for destroying the apartment, but it can really decorate a lot of stuff. So what we do is we take the tape. You can rip it if you're strong. I think it looks a little better if you cut it. So if you have a pair of scissors, that would be lovely. But branches are actually very uneven and like rough. So it's okay if you just rip it off. See, over here, I just ripped it off. Here, I cut it. And when I cut that one, I cut it at an angle, which is like to the side. It's not straight up and down, or to the side, it's kind of diagonal. And I think a lot of tree branches are at an angle, so you can look. And what you do is you just take the tape, and let me make sure you can see, and you place the tape where you want to. So I would say the first step would probably be to do the trunk of the tree, which is just one line down. You know, I didn't do roots, but you totally could do roots. So let's do roots. And for the branches and the tree trunk, I just used regular size tape, but maybe for the roots, I want to cut this in half. It's a little hard, but if you can, or if you have some help, maybe cut the tape so it's a smaller piece, or you can rip it. And let's just add a couple of roots right over, oops, pardon me, right over here. I'm going to place the roots down. And yeah, you can do whatever you want. After this, if you're like, I'm done with trees, if you just want to put tape wherever you want and paint over it, that's also cool. I will warn you, sometimes the tape falls off, so it's a good idea to like really press it down, or if you have a glue stick, maybe even glue it down. It depends. Maybe my washi tape isn't the best, I don't know. But usually like masking tape is spot on. And let's see, what are we missing? Make sure your tree looks full, but I'm gonna say this is like a winter tree, and winter trees are actually dying. They don't have leaves on them, and they might have some sticks falling off, so it doesn't have to be super, super full. But yeah, make sure your tape is in place. Maybe take the back of your paintbrush and press it down, whatever you can do, or glue it. And then the fun part. We are going to be painting over this puppy. So, we have to pick the colors. What I did for mine was like a blue, purple, kind of a, I don't know, sometimes the sky is rainbow. Do you guys ever notice that? It's not always just blue. So I think it's fun to kind of do special colors, and especially if this is a magical tree. So I think I'm gonna make this one mostly pink, and maybe blue and green as well. You can do a lot of different colors. And so what you do is you just take the paintbrush and paint over it. So I'm just gonna start with the green and work my way up. So make sure that the paint does not get underneath the tape. Just go over it and over it. Okay, so I actually decided to skip through time a little bit just to finish painting this. And I thought we would do the fun part together now, actually, of removing the tape. So I would give this like 10 minutes at least to dry. You can feel it to see. If you have a blow dryer, you might want to whip that out right now. Go woof, woof, woof. When you're done covering the whole thing, there should be no blank paper color on here. And this is the fun part. You very, very carefully remove the tape. And if done correctly, there should be a white tree right underneath this. Ugh, I don't know why that ripped a little bit. It should be fine. So you do not want to rush this step. You just take off tape. Do you guys see what's happening? We have the branches, but we don't know if it's gonna be a tree yet. So, da-da-da. And I know some of you guys are always impatient in my art classes and you never wanna wait for things to dry. You just want to take things home right away. But I'm telling you, if you wait, the payoff will be worth it. Okay, I'm going to very, very carefully take this one off. Oh, it's really a little, okay, that's fine. It might have been better with painting tape, but the washi tape is all I had. And let's see now. Doop. There we go. So I like it. It's not perfect, but I think it looks pretty cool and looks like a nice spring tree day. And for some reason, if you don't like it, you can always add some lines to make it like a birch tree or fill it in with another color. But I think it looks really cool, especially for my first try with you guys. So just do your best. This one, maybe I waited a little longer for, but even this one, it's not perfect. See that? It's not perfect. So painter's tape works best, but I encourage you to try this, and I encourage you to do this again with just an abstract, random amount of lines and see what it looks like. Whew. All right, so that concludes those two projects. And for the fun part, I thought we would read a book together. And that book is called The Magical Tree. So let's get started. Dun, 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 dun. It's about a boy named Jalil. Jalil. Everything was fine, and he went up to a treehouse where he always visited his friend Manoa, who would get him out of trouble. She had the best advice, and she had all these magical lessons and stories. Some people thought she was just a crazy old woman who spoke to trees, but other people thought she was a witch. And Jalil preferred to keep them other talks in secret. Manoa was sitting in the center of the treehouse with a box in her hand. Today, my boy, I have chosen this box, and I believe you are ready. So normally, he would go up to her treehouse, and she would keep seeds in boxes, and then she would speak of the country where the seed came from, draw the tree that produced it, and explained the powers of the tree. But this time, when they opened the box, there was a seed as big as a fist. Oof, that's big. And it was as shiny as gold. How beautiful it is, cried Jalil. Where does it come from? This seed is a mystery, she said. I found it in the desert. There's the woman. See how inside her hair there's kind of a tree? As soon as it sprouts, it will become very, very delicate and vulnerable. Everyone will want it. So you need to protect this tree and the seed. It's yours. Now you will be the guardian of the tree. So that's a lot of responsibility giving this kid like a very powerful, special, rare seed. But year after year, where is he? Jalil took good care of his most precious treasure, the seed. He knew the old lady had spoken the truth. It was certainly easier to look after a seed than a whole tree, but he knew the day had to come where he would plant it. He took a falcon, which is a fancy bird, and used it to help him plant the tree and watch over it. He began a journey to find the seed a home. He moved away from his village and went beyond the mountains. He wanted the tree to be away from everything in the city and all the people. As you see, this artist likes to use a lot of gold, brilliant colors. So finally, Jalil found the perfect place for the seed. And there was a nice stream nearby and lots of mountains. So he was nervous, but thinking of Manoa, he dug into the dirt and planted the seed. And he took water from the stream and put it on to water it and waited for it to grow into an amazing, amazing tree. And that it did. This tree grew in an extraordinary manner. After a first few weeks, it was large in the trunk. Every branch was golden and had spiring branchlets. After 7 years and 7 branches, the tree stopped growing. But its first fruit appeared, and the fruit was black and white and actually looked like an eye. So Jalil decided to eat one of the fruits, and he couldn't find a seed or a core, but this fruit was juicy, fragrant, and it was the best fruit he ever ate. So he ate all of the tree's fruits and then fell into a deep, deep sleep. And that night, he had the most extraordinary dream. He dreamed that there was another tree on fire, actually, and it was illuminating the night. A river swallowed up the city and the palace of Ganhar, its black waters carrying corpses amongst the debris. But there was also a face, the wonderful face of a princess, beautiful. He petted the falcon and tried not to forget those visions. And then, the next day, guess what? There was actually a violent storm, and just like in his dream, the other tree was on fire. So he knew that there was a special power to this tree, and he knew that Jalil had dreamed of the future. He thought of the palace of Ganhar drowning in the Black River. He must warn the king and prevent the disaster. So Jalil had his falcon carry a message directly to the king. Only the bird could make it there on time. So he gave the bird a message. And the king greeted the falcon with curiosity and read the message carefully. Let's see what's going on. There's the king. There's the falcon. And he saw it. Maybe a strange man predicted that the palace would soon drown, but he didn't want to take any chances. So he decided that he would trust the falcon and be careful. So he sent his guards to watch the palace. And it turned out the message was right, and the palace almost collapsed, but the guards saved it, and they worked together to keep the palace away from the river. Thanks to their efforts and to the mysterious messenger, the city was saved. So, very rich images. And the king knew that the falcon's master was no madman. So, he wanted to find out who this guy was because sorry, it's hard to see the book, because he did not want to go without rewarding him. So he sent his daughter, the princess, and said, "You will leave at dawn. If the man truly possesses some kind of power, he will know who you are. And then you will be able to show him the gratitude and give him the gold from his people." So, over here, was Jalil waiting for his falcon, and he sees this beautiful, beautiful princess, and she had such beautiful blowing hair that it made his heart leap. The princess had survived, and he was so happy. He fell to his knees in front of her. In silence, he thanked the tree and its fruits for having saved her life. "Look at me," said the woman. And when he lifted his head, he smiled. "So it seems, after all, you are not a liar. You truly can see what others do not." She leaned down towards Jalil, raised him up, and held him in her arms. Okay, and that is the end. Here are the works from the artist this was inspired by. I encourage you to do more research and look up Gustav Klimt. He's awesome. So thank you so much for taking this journey with me on the magical trees. And this is our last video for the summer because school would officially be out soon. So I want to encourage all of you to continue to make art, because even though you might not have art class or theater class, that's no reason why you should not continue to create extraordinary things over the summer. You should write stories if that's what you like to do. You should draw pictures. You can really use this time to grow. And I can't wait to see everyone again and find out what you guys were up to. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a beautiful summer. Bye-bye.